Hello, in this video I am going to demonstrate a common mold making technique by creating a small shell mold. To start, make sure there is a clean working surface on which to make the mold. I find collapsible small TV tables to be extremely handy working surfaces. I like to cover my working surfaces with a sheet of wax paper as this protects both the surface being worked on and the mold I am making. Make sure wax paper is taped in place so it won't shift at the wrong time, like when the mold is first being formed around an object. When I make a mold of a small object, like a shell or button, I use a product called Amazing Mold Putty made by Alumilite. It can be bought online at resinobsession.com or at many Michael's craft stores or Hobby Lobbies. I like this particular kind of putty because it is easy to use and you don't have to be exact when measuring out the two different parts that compose the putty. It also has a quick dry and set time of just 30 minutes before it is ready to use for molding. The putty we will use to make the mold is actually a mixture of two different compounds called Part A and Part B. Part A is gray in color while Part B is bright yellow. The supplies I recommend having laid out and ready to go are the small object to be molded. I used a clean dry shell, a popsicle stick, either two measuring cups like the kind that come with liquid medicine, or a method to weigh out equal amounts of the two compounds, the two mold-making putty compounds, and a clock or timer. Following the instructions that come with the putty, I measure out equal amounts of the Part A and Part B compounds. I use small medicine cups and eyeball them to make sure the two amounts are roughly equal. This can also be determined by weight. I push down the two compounds with my fingers to make sure I am dealing with similar sized amounts of the two parts. Both compounds are the consistency of Play-Doh, so they are pretty easy to smush into shape. Only mix enough to cover and surround the item you are molding. I usually only mold one item at a time as opposed to mixing a bigger batch for a few items. Once I have my two parts measured out, I put the two pieces of compound onto my work surface. Taking one piece in each hand, I combine the two parts. The compound needs to be mixed together so that it is one uniform color with no streaks or swirls of either the white or bright yellow of the original compounds. I usually accomplish this by rolling and mashing the two compounds together between the palms of my hands. I allow about 1 minute or 60 seconds for the mixing process. Once the putty mixture is a uniform color, roll it into a ball. Keeping the width and height of my shell in mind, I flatten the ball slightly. I then take the center of the flattened putty and touch it to the center of my shell. Roll the putty over the object until the item is covered, pushing in somewhat on the sides and corners. Don't push too hard. We want to make sure to leave the mold at least 1/2 to 3/4 inches thick in all places or else it could rip easily later. I use a popsicle stick to help push on the sides and to flatten what will be the bottom of the mold. This will help it sit evenly if liquids are being used in the mold. Approximately 2 minutes after mixing is complete, the mold will not be malleable anymore. After 30 minutes, the mold will be ready for use. First, we will need to remove the original item from the mold. To do this, push on the sides of the mold to loosen the item from the mold walls. After a few moments of this, the item should pop easily out of the mold. I use molds for both polymer clay and epoxy resin. The molds are also great for soap or candle making. This particular brand of mold making material is food safe, so it can be used for chocolates or candy. The molds are also safe in an oven up to 395 degrees Fahrenheit, which is nice if I want to bake my polymer clay in the mold before I have to take it out of the mold. Never use an oven that has been used for crafting purposes for cooking food for consumption. Hope this has been a helpful tutorial. For more crafty ideas, please visit my blog at cosmic-designs.blogspot.com.